Type 1. This is a Queen Sport from Uzbekistan, Tashkent. Nice to meet you all. My name is Ksenia and I'm the press secretary of Queen Sport team. And today I'd like to tell you a brief story of our Queen Sport project. So, welcome to our sport base. First of all, let me tell you what the Queen Sport is. Queen Sport Cycling is the first and yet the only project aimed to struggle against diabetes type 1 in Uzbekistan. This project is a sport one and it is based on cycling practice. Initially, the idea of establishing such a project came to the ex-president of Uzbek Cycling Federation and currently the CEO of Queen Sport team, Mr. Ruslan Useinov, who was inspired by the unique experience of USA project Team Type 1. How did he know about Team Type 1? Well, in 2008, the Uzbek national cycling team was prepared for the Beijing Olympics by Mr. Gleb Groisman, who at that period was the head coach of Uzbekistan Olympic team. Since then, Mr. Useinov remained in touch with Mr. Groisman, and recently, by corresponding, he was informed about the existence of such a project as Team Type 1. He was much interested in the idea to found something similar here in Central Asia, especially since the problem of diabetes became threatening in this region. According to the statistics, for 2012 in Uzbekistan, the number of people diagnosed with diabetes exceeds 120,000, among which about 15% are children. Have studied in details the unique working process of Team Type 1, Mr. Useinov began to attract young professionals in the field of cycling and medicine to be involved in the new project. For now, the team is controlled by the professional staff, whose common efforts led the project to be started on March 1st, 2012. So, why the Queen Sport is unique in its way? Well, as I already mentioned, this is the first such project created in Uzbekistan and in Central Asia region in common. But the most important here is that mainly the project focuses on working with children and teenagers diagnosed with diabetes. The team is formed not from elite athletes with diabetes, but from children with diabetes who have never had any sport experience before. It is important to notice that Queen Sport is not a one-day event, but thoughtful, multi-level project aimed at raising healthy, perspective riders from the very beginning, or juniors, and on up to the professionals, generation by generation. Unfortunately, there are still not so many supporters of the project, and the majority is skeptical to it. But the Queen Sport staff hopes for the better and do its best to develop the project, because they do believe that they do the right things. The priority goals of the project are: 1. To attract to the project as many children diagnosed with diabetes type 1 as possible, in order to give them a chance to live a long and healthy life. 2. To provide these children with any possible assistance, no matter who they are, where they are from, what is their social status, etc. 3. To conduct special inspiration trainings with children and their parents, to make them sure that diabetes is not the verdict, and children with diabetes are really able to achieve anything they want to. Queen Sport team involves not only diabetes children, but also those who has known the disease. Such specificity was chosen by trainers in order to provide the children with diabetes with healthy social atmosphere to exercise and develop in. For now, there are 13 young riders in the team, among which 9 are diagnosed with diabetes type 1. All athletes, boys and girls, exercise together here, on this sports base situated in Tashkent. All these children are unique and talented. All of them are united by one common aim: to overcome the disease. and this made them very friendly to each other. Further details of the specific work conducted with these riders are told by the professional staff of trainers and doctors working with the team.
Tell us about the idea of creation of Queen Sport as a project for children with diabetes.
So happened in my life that I have the honor to be a friend of Mr. Gleb Groisman. We've known each other for over than 20 years. During this time, Gleb Groisman has grown up several generations of high-class racers. In 2008, when I was the president of Uzbekistan Cycling Federation, I have faced the question of choosing a foreign specialist who could prepare our national team for upcoming Olympics, which took place at Beijing. And of course, we have set our choice on the candidacy of Mr. Groisman. Since he started to work with national team, we immediately saw the growth of our results. The team faced with a completely new approach of training and a higher level of professionalism, which subsequently reflected by our victories and success at international arena. After completion of the contract with the national team of Uzbekistan, Mr. Groisman began to work at the American project Team Type 1. At that time, I was not familiar with that project, but when my friend Gleb began to work actively within this project, I was really intrigued with it. Imagine my astonishment when I knew from Mr. Groisman that this team involved riders diagnosed with diabetes type 1. I amused more and more when I got new details from my friend. Then I learned more about the project Team Type 1 on the team's website. Due to the existence of such a project as Team Type 1, I knew that in today's world there are about 280 million people suffering from diabetes, and this number is constantly growing. According to the World Health Organization statistics, by 2030, this number will reach 350 million people. Imagine the urgency of this problem. In Tashkent city, where we live, with its population of 2,007,000 people, there are 20,000 diagnosed with diabetes, from which 260 are children. Once, during a telephone conversation with Mr. Groisman, I asked him where they found the riders with diabetes for their team. He told me that they were looking for suitable athletes around the world. At that moment, the idea to create a children's cycling team involving children suffering from diabetes type 1 arose in my mind. Mr. Groisman highly supported me in this endeavor, and I would say inspired me to this project.
I guess while developing this project, you have faced with a lot of administrative barriers and doubts of skeptics.
To my surprise, there were not so many. The main issue was the choice of candidates among diabetic children. We have applied for help of the Ministry of Health of Uzbekistan and then of the Endocrinological Center in Tashkent, where we were so much supported by the head doctor, Mrs. Victoria Tsareva. Studying thoroughly our specifications, doctors of the center provided 10 candidates aged from 12 to 16 years that we started to work with.
What are the main rules which must be followed by the athletes of your project?
First of all, it is a pedantic approach to everything and everywhere. The strictest discipline, the scientific approach, devotion to the sport, and, of course, the faith in oneself. Diabetes mellitus is a severe, insidious disease, but it's not a verdict. Having a great desire, faith, and confidence, it is quite possible to resist the disease for many. A bright example of such resistance is the founder of Team Type 1, Mr. Phil Sutherland. He wrote his book, Not Dead Yet, which demonstrates a vivid example of the desire to live and indomitable will. I recommend to all people wishing to confront diabetes to read this book.
How do you see your team in 5-10 years?
I'm very hopeful that our team, Queen Sport, will exist after 5 and 10 years. There is a driving force behind this project, which is a group of young, enthusiastic coaches, who are also now active riders, Shaikhov Vadim and Dmitry Golovin, who quickly responded to my call to create this team and have supported me in this endeavor. We are deeply hope that the development of our project will receive support also from our state.
What are the objectives for your team for the future?
We have started to maintain the training process on April 16, 2012. During this time, we have participated in several competitions and already have a victory and win prizes. Our top athletes, already at current period of preparation, can stand a long trading distance of 120 kilometers and even more. In 2013, we set out to enter the staff of the national junior team of Uzbekistan. We will be very hard to inspire to it and believe that we will succeed.
Everyone wants to be like his or her idol. Is there such an idol for your athletes?
Young cyclists involved in our project are very fond of cycling and, of course, because of their life circumstances, are fans of Team Type 1 with its leader Phil Sutherland, who, of course, is their idol. Let me take this opportunity to personally express my respect to Mr. Sutherland and thank him for gifting me his book, Not Dead Yet, which is a great honor for me. We are very grateful to him for creating the project Team Type 1, which is inspiring us to work in our project. If Team Type 1 representatives are interested in our work, we'll be very happy to provide additional information, and we are looking forward to a possible collaboration. Thank you. Cycling is a technically difficult sport. Besides the great functional training, a cyclist is required to have a great moral concentration of willpower. It is obvious that to become a professional cyclist is given not to everyone. In this regard, let me ask you, how is it possible that children with diabetes type 1 are able to successfully engage in cycling?
Yes, indeed, you are right. All these qualities are quite necessary for a real cyclist, but nevertheless, those children who suffer from diabetes type 1 are definitely able to become cycling athletes, and even very successful athletes. Preparation for athletes diagnosed with diabetes requires the strictest discipline, including food intake, sugar control, correct insulin dose calculation, the evaluation of functional condition of the athlete before the training, etc. Only after all these procedures are done, we can start training. The human pancreas is a kind of natural computer which regulates complex processes in our body. Unfortunately, in the case of our children, that computer's functions are very limited. So the task of the coach here is to teach his athletes to lead the process of the pancreas functioning from the outside. Being a diabetic and professional cyclist at once is possible. I've participated in many international competitions together with diabetic cyclists, and I'll tell you honestly, they often become more productive than me. Currently, in a world sport, such athletes are not only very respectful, but also considered as serious and worthy opponents.
You are now an active cyclist. How are you able to combine sport activities with coaching?
Of course, there were some particular problems, like the lack of time due to the constant races, but we found a way out. I have a good assistant, also a young coach, Dmitry Golovin. While being on the road during the race, I often watch and think over different options of preparation which may be used with all our athletes. By arrival at home, we collectively implement them during the training. After I finish my sport career, I am planning to become a coach and hope to achieve good results in this field. Now I am in a constant contact with the coach of the Team Type 1, Gleb Groisman, who shares his great experience and invaluably helps me to improve my coaching skills. I'm honored and grateful that the management of the Queen Sport Project, Ruslan Huseinov, have chosen me to be a coach of these children and entrust me this complex and critical work. I will try to fully justify his trust, and I'm sure that altogether we will get success. You are now a professional cyclist representing Team Vacances Olei. In your time, you became world champion in category of under 23. You won a variety of international races, performed successfully in the World Tour competition. At the Olympic Games in London, you took 5th place on the road race. For sure, you know particularly all about cycling. But nonetheless, wasn't it a big surprise for you that in Uzbekistan it was established cycling team for children suffering from diabetes type 1, who, despite the diagnosis, successfully performed equally with healthy athletes?
The fact that at present there are professional cyclists suffering from diabetes type 1 is not news for me. These unique riders are involved in a large-scale project, the American team, Team Type 1, with its bright leader Phil Sutherland. I constantly live in the US and know about this project firsthand. I've often seen these riders in different competitions, very strong and desperate guys. But I just could not believe it when I heard that similar project was established in my native country, in Uzbekistan. When I was invited to meet these children, I immediately agreed with great pleasure and have come here today to witness it all with my own eyes.
What is your impression of what you see, and what do you think the prospect of this team?
There is an obvious and clearly defined task line and objectives of the project managers. I know these people very well. It's the former president of the Cycling Federation of Uzbekistan, Ruslan Useinov, and currently active rider Vadim Shaykhov. These people are very motivated, enterprising, and the most important, fanatically devoted to cycling. Next crucial point here is the medical work, which is very established in the team. The working group of doctors and endocrinologists is in constant direct contact with the coach. I noticed that the management of the team explores the experience of Team Type 1 and actively implements it in their practices. I think this is very good because Team Type 1 do has something to learn from. I am very impressed with the high motivation of Queen sport athletes. These are very purposeful and strong-willed children who love cycling. While observing the enthusiasm and desire they train with, you would never think that these children suffer from diabetes type 1. I was really flattered and touched when these children gave me a symbolic, memorable present during our meeting here. It is very nice of them and inspires me to new victories.
What would you like to wish to the Queen Sport Project and its young members?
First of all, of course, I wish them strong health, successful confrontation of illness, great victories in cycling, and the fulfillment of all their desires and dreams. I urge all interested parties, charities, and foundations to help and support the Queen Sport Project, which main motto is "Diabetes is not a verdict."
Type 1 diabetes is certainly a severe organic lesion of human health, but nevertheless, I assure you that diabetes is not a verdict. To date, people with diabetes can adequately confront this insidious disease. The success of this confrontation mostly depends on the right balanced lifestyle, which primarily is a symptomatical control of the needs of your body. Also, it is a well-elaborated system of diet and nutrition, and of course, systematic sports. Sure, in our today's swift life, due to the catastrophic shortage of time and workload, it is rather difficult for people to conduct such an aesthetic way of life. But still, it is possible. I will say more. Even children are able to withstand such a severe ailment. An illustrative example of such a living confrontation is our children's cycling team, Queen Sport. Within a short time this team exists, we, doctors and endocrinologists, have opened a lot for us in the process of preventing diabetes type 1 among these children. Already within a few months of cycling practice, children with diabetes type 1 showed obvious positive change in their health condition. Practically, all children have significantly reduced their daily consumed insulin dose, and the most effective riders do not need it at all. Yes, it is true. They substitute their insulin with training on the bike. Now these children have quite different life motivation and perception of the world. They became very cheerful, purposeful, and capable of working. We were surprised to observe the newfound ability of their body to handle stress and infectious diseases. There is an obvious increase of immunity. Cycling practice in conjunction with special cycling diet and evolved system of taking insulin gives us the unique opportunity to attain a full carbohydrate metabolism identical to the state of absolutely healthy person. Athletes with diabetes, abide the rules I have mentioned, are able to demonstrate high sport results equal to healthy people. On the example of our team, I can confidently say that diabetes is not a verdict, and cycling is a cure for this disease. I would advise all to engage in this sport. Cycling is truly unique. In fact, it is the only sport where the transport is moving through the muscle power. Also, it is a great way of traveling, making new friends, and a huge surge of positive emotions, and therefore, the path to healthy living and spiritual harmony.
Cycling is a technically complex psychical sport that primarily requires good visual acuity and concentration. Nevertheless, cycling appears available not only for healthy people, but also serves as an essential activity for people with diabetes. Our project involves children with a diagnosis diabetes type 1. Curiously enough, the cycling is one of the most effective ways to struggle this serious disease. Regular training helps to reduce psychospasm, improve visual acuity, and thus reduce excessive ocular pressure. Ophthalmologic examination of the eye ground and retina showed significant improvement of visual acuity of athletes with diabetes type 1. As a result of the regular physical activity, the level of blood sugar becomes lower. Therefore, the stress on eyes is reduced. Intensification of blood circulation in retinal arteries prevents the development of diabetic retinopathy. All these positive factors, derived from regular training, help to maintain good visual acuity in people with diabetes.
The number of people suffering from insular diabetes in Uzbekistan is growing rapidly, as well as in other countries of the world. The most serious forms of this illness are observed among ill children of the first type diabetes. This is due to the ecological changes and various natural factors, such as sedentary lifestyle and genetically modified products. Consequently, the absolute insulin dependence takes place when pancreas stops functioning. At present time, there are about 340 children suffering from insular diabetes in the immediate region of Tashkent. As I have mentioned earlier, this number keeps increasing. When the sports experts address themselves to us with the Child Cycle Team Development Project, consisting of children suffering from insular diabetes, we approved of it enthusiastically and agreed to collaborate with them closely. In order to receive vivid and extensive information, we were offered to familiarize ourselves with the unique project work of Team Type 1 in the field of studying the insular diabetes in the big-time sports. We obtained plenty of necessary and useful things from this project. We conducted a thorough selection of children aged 11-16 with A1C from 6.5 till 15 who were preparing to go in for cycling sports. After several months of hard work, the sportsmen whose A1C were very high during the initial stage of work got first results. The numbers of their A1C had dropped substantively. This is the evidence of great significance that the cycling sports plays in the lives of people suffering from insular diabetes. It's not a secret that the process of insular diabetes is not as terrible as its complications. When the level of blood sugar reaches the critical mark, it causes injuries of all minute vessels of eyes, hands, legs, kidneys, and so on. Doing sports can resist all these bad consequences. The cycling sport is a great physical activity and colossal energy consumption, which lowers the level of blood sugar. Those children who do not give up under the pressure of this serious illness and go in for cycling sports get terrific results of treatment. They do not feel ill and cut off from the life. They specialize to the furthest life.
On November 19th in Tashkent in Tabassum Celebration Hall, the ceremony devoted to the World Diabetes Day took place. This ceremony was organized by Endocrinological Center in Tashkent with the support of Ministry of Health and other stakeholders. About 300 children suffering from diabetes type 1 were invited at the ceremony, where they were presented by gifts and prizes awarded in various categories. The key event of the celebration was the presentation of the project Queen Sport. The young team of cyclists consisted of athletes with diabetes type 1. Well, in general, this was all we wanted to tell you about the Queen Sport project. Of course, the team is still very young and has no rich history of achievements yet. But all of us believe that this is just the beginning of the great way of Queen Sport project. We admire all you are doing for children with diabetes because it is as close to our hearts as it to yours. And it is an honor for Queen Sports staff to contribute to this great process. And what I'd like to add is that it would be great for us to communicate with you all, to cooperate and to learn from your rich experience in order to develop our shared noble cause.
Hello, Team Type 1! Thank you for all you